So I'm Emily, and I identify as half farmer, half speech-language pathologist.
And I'm Gable, and I'm part-time electrician and part-time school bus driver and part-time farmer.
We are both from Lower Sackville. We met in high school. In life's journey, we moved out west. While we were out there, we were super interested in tiny house living and found an idea to live in a school bus. So we bought a school bus, we converted it, and then we lived in the converted school bus in Calgary for 4 years. During COVID, we, I think, came to realize that it was a hard life living in the bus. It was always a hard life living in the bus, but it was especially hard during COVID, and we started imagining what life might look like after bus days. And Gable started getting super interested by watching YouTube videos about James Brigioni, who's a permaculturalist in New Jersey. And he has a Suburban lot, and we were just like, whoa, he poured all these wood chips over his whole lawn and just grew food, and it was amazing.
James really showed how you could grow a lot of food and mix your annuals and your perennials in together and still grow a ton of food.
So we came back home and decided that's what we wanted to do. So we found this spot which was close enough that we could still be employed in our other jobs to the city, but gave us space and sunlight on this corner lot here to be able to start growing some food.
So yeah, when we first moved here, we kind of heard about permaculture, like just as like this theory or whatever in books and stuff, and just slowly picking away at like different things. Like we didn't really know what we were doing at first, but then we did our PDC with a local permaculturist, Charles, and yeah, it just really tied everything together that we've been like seeing on YouTube and reading in books, and we're just still learning, like we're still babies. Year 3 just feels so overwhelming because it's overwhelming to harvest things. It's hard to stay on top of it. Then you have to like preserve and like do stuff with it. Yeah, it's an amazing learning experience and just feel like it'll never end. Like there's just so much to learn.
We haven't had to worry too much about wind because we're really sheltered here, but sun definitely, with so many mature trees all around. We've been thinking lots about how to design in a way to maximize the sun for the plants that need it. So this is like our food forest with lots of perennials and the fruit trees. And then towards the front is where we have our annuals, because the south is there, so we get a lot more sun. And then our fruit trees won't be shading out the sun. So I'd say that's probably one of the biggest things that we've considered with design, is just like how the sun's gonna fall.
And the animals also like dictate like how we shape things too. Like we wanted to hide the chickens, so we put them behind there. We also use the chickens as our compost. Like I don't have a compost pile. The compost pile is on the ground, and the chickens just work it for me. And then I'll occasionally go through with the pitchfork, and then all the worms will be exposed. It encourages them to dig more. And the ducks we wanted to have separated, and we're gonna have another kind of temporary T-post fence for another paddock, because we don't want the chickens to come into the food forest area in the winter, because we've had them free range like in the winter, but they just dig at the roots of like our perennial trees and like bushes and stuff in it. They don't like that. We could have the ducks in here, and the ducks just kind of bill into the soil. So the ducks will be in here, and the chickens will have free range of that half.
And I'd say too, like with our design, like things are constantly changing.
Yeah.
So like originally we had, heard like, oh, you don't have a slug problem, you have a duck deficiency, which maybe that's true if you have a lot of space, but we have found that we can't really have the ducks free ranging in here. Like they will destroy our plants. The permaculture principle about site-specific design, right? So in a small urban space, free-ranging ducks in the summer might not work as well as if you had a lot of space.
We tested it out, and then they just, were
ate
like
everything.
ate and bulldozed. Like they would eat things and then walk over things, and we were like, okay, like we're not doing that.
So we're gonna try in the spring and the fall,
spring and fall.
It's like it's just constantly changing depending on what sort of happens. We're applying the principles and we're attempting to design, but also recognizing that we're still learning, and so much of permaculture and farming and gardening is like it's a skill, and so we're fostering that skill by trying things and failing and
Yeah.
trying again and trying differently.
Lots of failing.
Lots of failing, but it's all fun.
Yeah.
And I'd say too, it's been a process, like in these last 3 years that we've just been here, which is not a very long time, but to even just accept that this was the direction that we were going in. So there's a lot of pressure, I think, in suburban and urban areas of like keeping up with the Joneses, or like you don't want to like upset people by how things look. And so that was one of my big concerns. Like when we started, it was like, oh, but I don't know how people are going to feel about the wood chips on the ground. And like maybe we should keep some lawn. When we lived in the school bus, we were like in a campground, removed from people, so it wasn't super visible, and we could kind of continue our lives and nobody would know that we lived in a school bus. Here we're super visible, so like anybody walking down, you know, the street, or like anybody dropping off their kids at the daycare, like our side yard is totally open, and we chose to do the fence with the hog wire, so it was really visible to allow for the sunlight to come in and maybe provide trellising. And so that's been the hardest thing for me. The ducks are awesome because they foster a lot of community, and like people are really curious about them and want to talk about them. And so we found like socially that's been huge in just like having discussions with our neighbors and community members. Hey, not much. How are you? Good.
What you guys doing?
We're just talking about the yard here. Just
Yeah.
all the plants we're growing and stuff.
What kind of plants are you growing?
Like food
Food
plants.
plants. And we got ducks and chickens. Those
They're
are Indian
runner
runners.
ducks.
Are they like exotic or something?
They're from India
yeah.
originally, but they've been here for a long time.
Right on. They can't like fly over the fence.
They could if they
couldn't
wanted
fly
to.
over this fence.
They could fly, yeah.
Worry about that?
No, they're homebodies. And we give them like so much food and stuff that they have their own, see they have a bathtub there. Yeah.
Our chickens, on the other hand, they would
The chickens, yeah, they go up, sometimes
They'll
they
go
go
in
on
the hedge.
Kearney Lake, and I'm out there trying to get them. But chickens are smart. They won't go onto the road. Like they see the cars, they just won't go. They want to eat bugs that are in the soil.
All right, well, you guys have a great day.
Every day we're out here, basically somebody will stop by and like have a conversation.
Yeah.
It's all the time.
We still have the school bus down in Chester. There's property there that we could cultivate, but like Emily is really enjoys her job here, and there's definitely more opportunities for me here too. I love being able to like e-bike to the city and just like go places. Like there's just so many places you could go on the e-bike from here. It's so central. There's a lot more people to connect with and things instead of isolating ourselves, because you know we did that thing and it was almost like in Calgary, like yeah, we lived in a school bus, but it was like 25 minutes from like south of Calgary, and
It was a lot of driving.
a lot of driving. Yeah, going back to something like that, like whereas like now we're thinking about like selling our cars.
The road noise too, like, was something when we first moved here. I was like, what have we done?
Labor Day, it's not too bad, but like rush hour, you don't want to be in the yard really without noise canceling headphones.
When we got the animals, I think it was really clear like what it afforded us, because we've had no complaints so far. So I've learned to appreciate it. Yeah.
It's like our invisible shield.
For us, like living like suburban, urban, you know, like there's always things to do and places to go and people to see, and like things are busy and things are happening. And the chickens have been awesome for that, because they just put themselves to bed at night, so you can like be out with friends like late and then come back and it's no big deal. And we are finding that the ducks are less conducive to that lifestyle because they don't necessarily put themselves to bed at night, or ours don't. And so I guess, again, like, you know, we had looked up YouTube videos like why ducks are amazing for a permaculture garden, and they are, like, we love them. But just thinking about our own individual lives, like there are pros and cons that maybe weren't considered in those YouTube videos. But that's okay. Like, it's all a learning process. And so, yeah. It's cool too in the city and suburbs. When you walk past people's lawns, like all I see now is potential.
Yeah.
Or like it's inspiring. It's just like there is actually so much like potential in our cities for like bringing back wildlife.
Rewilding, like people think of it as, oh, like you need to like give a bunch of land back to nature and like no humans. But no, it's like we can like rewild like the cities, even up Dunbrack. there's massive amounts of grass there.
The boulevard
boulevards, like
between
on
the sidewalk and the road.
Yeah, like there's just, and it gets lots of good sun. It's like down a nice hill, so you could be like swaling all the way down to like slowly, gradually like water everything. The government pays money to mow it with machines and weed whackers. So it's not like they're not even, not spending money. It's probably paying pretty good money to do that. But like thinking about like ideas of like how the cities can be really tackling like this food insecurity. Like if governments put that budget into people who are interested in like food forests and growing food, there's a lot of people out there that are into this stuff. Like there's so much opportunity to make these community growing spaces together and community manage collectives, like to spaces that like I feel like they wouldn't really have to spend too much money to do. But